Hannah, I'm an alcoholic. Oh, there we go. Recording in progress. Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah. I'm an alcoholic. I'm going to start a timer because I speak a lot and speak very, uh, I will go on and on and on. And please, the interpreter, if I'm going too fast, please let me know in the chat. My sobriety date is June 10th of 2020. The old timers in my home group call me an AA Zoom baby because I got sober on Zoom. I got sober. My first meeting was online. But I feel like I'm nervous right now because I haven't told my story in a while. I haven't been on an online meeting in a while. So I'm trying to pull God into this moment. I typically start my days by getting on my knees and praying in the morning, and that didn't happen this morning. It was just one of those mornings where it was different, and I was in a rush, and so I feel like maybe I'm a little off today because of that. Nonetheless, I shall continue. Where do I begin? I'm sitting in my childhood bedroom. So that's one fun thing. Right now, I grew up in Connecticut. That's where I'm from, and I have 3 siblings, 2 parents. I had a great childhood. It was fantastic. I'm the only person in my immediate family that I know of that is an alcoholic, and there is alcoholism in my family, but not with my siblings or my parents. So I knew about it, but I didn't quite, I guess I didn't know, I didn't think it would ever affect me. And my dad's brothers had issues with drugs and alcohol, but I didn't know that until I was much older. But I was a pretty happy kid. I was a theater kid. I did ballet, loved singing, and I did really well in school. I had a lot of friends. I was a little odd. I had like weird collections of items and rocks, and like I used to collect hotel key cards. I was a little funky, but I loved that young me. And something that I noticed early on is I had this really strong conviction not to drink. I don't know if it was the DARE program I did in 6th grade. I don't know if it was a higher power that I had before I came into the rooms. But I always said, like, I'm not going to drink. I have a very vivid memory of being on a cruise with my family. I was a senior in high school. It was like Christmas time, and we went on a cruise. And my dad got everybody drinks. I was 17 at the time. And I wanted a pina colada, non-alcoholic, and it came back with alcohol in it, and I cried. I cried. Little did she know. But maybe that was the control coming out in me. But yeah, I was a normal kid, a little bit artsy, but I was pretty much friendly with everyone. But my senior year, I started getting invited to parties, proms, and after parties and senior banquets and that sort of stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've made it. Like, I've waited my whole life to be one of the cool kids, and I finally made it to one of these parties. And I went into my garage. I filled up a big water bottle full of vodka, and I brought it to this party, and I drank the whole thing. And I was sliding around. It was winter time, and it was outside, so there was ice and snow everywhere, and all the cool kids were there, and I thought it was like the best thing ever. I vaguely remember an RV being on fire. I don't know what was happening there, but I had a great time. And I remember people saying, oh my gosh, Hannah, like, you're here. And it was like one of the first times in my life where I felt like this sense of um, like I could breathe a little bit. I was always anxious and worried about what other people thought of me. Um, but yeah, I kind of, was off to the races with all those events. And I'm not going to say all the war stories, but I ended up going to college. Um, and what college looked like for me, for a lot of it was binge drinking on the weekends, which makes sense. I feel like a lot of people do that. It was expected. It didn't feel abnormal. Um, but I was a blackout drinker from the beginning. I didn't really know how to stop. Um, and that carried me through. I got super involved in college, got decent grades, and I was in a cappella. And if anybody knows how to party in college, it's the theater and music folks. So if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Um, but my, a lot of crazy things happen at those parties, but the main love for me was alcohol and gin specifically. Um, I ended up writing a song about gin. I'm in a band, and I wrote a song about it. And um, anyway, my junior year, I was at a party with the artsy kids, and I was sexually assaulted at a party. And sorry, I'm being very quiet because I'm at my house, and I'm not sure if people hear me. Anyway, so yeah, after that, I started drinking a little bit more heavily. And sorry, I'm super distracted. Um, I started, yeah, so I was living in an apartment off campus. And I feel like from that point, after that, I um, just kept drinking more and more excessively. And I felt like I earned it. I felt like I was allowed to, like, I, um, like, I could do whatever I want, because after that happened, like, I should be able to do whatever I want. And I used it as a coping mechanism, and I used it as a way to be myself. And um, yeah, I feel like I didn't realize it was really an issue until everybody graduated college and I was left in my apartment, and I was drinking alone. I had started working full time, and I was like, ooh, it's 5 o'clock. I get to do the whole happy hour thing. Um, and um, then everyone left. And I remember getting after a party, after graduation, there are still things happening. And we got bagels the next morning. And I remember sitting there with my friends, and I made this joke. I was like, I think I'm an alcoholic. And I was expecting everybody to laugh, and nobody laughed. And I was like, oh, shoot, like, maybe this is an issue. But nonetheless, I moved to a new city for grad school. And it was a fresh start. I had just like had a breakup. I was in a new city, a new program, new roommates, and I was single. So I was like, I'm going to go out on the town all the time. And the people that I was around supported this lifestyle. And I started, it started getting a little bit more out of hand. It looked like walking the streets of not the safest city, at 4 a.m. alone, drunk, finding myself in places I didn't recognize. And then the pandemic hit and I started drinking a lot more alone, because I couldn't go out. And the hours of the day between classes and work, like that, those lines kind of blurred a little bit. And my roommate was in law school. And so her friend from law school would come over and study at our apartment. And one time I knew she didn't drink, but I thought it was like because she was like fasting or something or dieting. But I knew she didn't drink and I thought that was really cool. And I would say things like, oh, I fast too, but I don't count alcohol because that's, makes a lot of sense. And anyway, she was over at the apartment and she had a work meeting or a school meeting to go to. And she went into my roommate's room and she closed the door and she said, hi, I'm Isabella. I'm an alcoholic. And I saw that I had a way out of like where I was. And so it took me a little courage, but she didn't know I heard her. But it took me a little courage. And I eventually asked her like, hey, like, how do you stop drinking? Because I had tried before. And she said, why don't you just try stopping for a week? And I tried and I lasted 6 days and I drank and I went back to her and I said, hey, tried it, didn't really work. And so she invited me to AA. She said, hi, I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Do you want to go to a meeting with me? And my meeting looked like an apartment with a bunch of law school books, stacked up on each other with a laptop on it. And I was sitting in this beanbag chair in the back crying. And I heard people talking about God and I started crying more because what does God have to do with it? And that's how I felt. And she gave me her extra big book and we started meeting at this law school outside and reading together. And I started going to meetings every day. I did the steps within a year, and I did them thoroughly and honestly and to the best of my ability. And a little over a year into sobriety, I moved for a job, not terribly far from where I got sober, but back home. I moved back home for a job, and I found my new home group. So my old home group was the Hartford group of AA in Hartford, Connecticut. And my new group is called The Young and the Restless, and it's in Trumbull, Connecticut. We meet on Thursdays from 7:30 to 8:30. And it's great. I'm the literature person there. I got introduced to my first YPA event. I went to the New England Conference for Young People in AA in January, and it was fantastic. And it changed my life. And so I got involved in service. I'd been sponsoring people, but I hadn't done any, I was a literature person and the coin person, and I did these things within AA, but I hadn't branched out to doing any conference work. And so I'm a part of SESKI-PA, and that's happening in, oh my gosh, a little over a week. So that's scary, but yeah, life is so good now. I have had, I've been sponsoring, but sometimes it takes a little bit longer for some people to come to the program and work the program and stay in it. And so, God willing, in 2 days, I will be hearing my first fifth step from one of my sponsees, and I'm really looking forward to that. I, with the time I have left, want to talk a little bit about, I can tell you all about my experience with the steps, but I think everyone's experience is profound and unique and different. And I'm really happy with the way I was brought through the steps. I think it's laid a great foundation for me to continue doing 10th steps and not having to do a whole nother 4th step. Continue reaching out and praying to the best of my ability, although I didn't pray this morning, because I'm imperfect, right? And that's okay, as long as I keep moving forward. But the one thing that I try to do with my program, and I try to talk to my sponsees about, is balance. Because when I first came into AA, I had to get over the, like I have to have a higher power. Like I had to do all of that stuff, right? But the stuff that I was like more concerned with in the beginning was, how am I going to have fun? Like, what am I going to do at my wedding when there's a toast? And so my sponsor would humble me and say, well, Hannah, are you even in a relationship? And I said, no. And she's like, then don't worry about it. And how am I going to, play with my band in bars and do all these things? And what AA has given me is not a world where there's no alcohol, but it's given me tools to live in a world where there is alcohol. And so I frequently go see live music. And what that looks like for me is making sure I'm up with my program, making sure the people I know that I'm with, all the guys in my band, all my friends know that I'm sober. And so they're the first one to say, oh, like, let me get you your seltzer with lime, or Hannah, I'm going to get some water. Do you need a refill? And staying in check with myself and understanding, am I feeling okay right now? And having an exit plan. But like the fun hasn't stopped for me. It's just gotten better because I remember the fun. I'm spending way less money. I am extremely hydrated all the time. And I get to do the things that I love, seeing music, playing in a band, and like actually remember the lyrics to the songs, right? And actually sound okay, and actually like experience life, because I don't know that I was doing that before. And I was so afraid that if I stopped drinking, then all of these fun parts of my life would be taken away, but really they've just been amplified. And it took some getting used to putting myself in those environments. But what it meant was, if I want to have like these gifts of sobriety, if I want to have these things in my life, I have to work for them, and I have to put the time and effort into my program and my relationship with my higher power for me to get to do those things. Because if I'm not praying enough, or I'm not calling my sponsor, and I'm not going to meetings or carrying the message, then I'm not fit to be in a place where I can pick up a drink. Because I mean, I don't know. I just wanted to put that out there because sometimes I feel like it's a little bit taboo to talk about going to bars and being around alcohol when you're in AA. But it was important for me to know that I could still see music, and I could still be in a band, and play venues in places where there's alcohol and be okay. Because that's a part of my identity. And so I just wanted to put that out there. It's something like, if you were thinking about it, talk to your sponsor about it. Because trust me, there have been many times where I've had to leave those places, or I've had to stop talking to people that I know from the industry, like the music industry, because of the way they drink or use. And so I'll get off my soapbox, but it's just important for you to know that, or it's important to me that you know that that's one of the gifts of sobriety, is that I can do that and be okay. And so thank you for letting me share. I think my time is up. I also thank you for your patience and understanding for the awkward silences and pauses, because parts of my story my family doesn't know about, um, if you catch my drift. So we'll see if they heard anything. With that, I'll share the time. Thank you.